everyone, it is me, it is I. Hi, my name is Wendy, also known as the Geek Goddess here on YouTube, and today we are going to be talking about book recommendations based off of your favorite childhood novella. So this is a telenovela that you might have watched growing up in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month. So let's go ahead and get started. So starting off with one of the biggest shows that was like literally everywhere growing up, and that is Rebelde. And this is about these teenagers that end up going to like this prestigious school, and they had like one thing in common, which was like their passion for music. And so for this one, I'm going to be recommending a book called Amplified by Tara Kelly, and this is about a privileged 17-year-old girl named Jasmine who actually ends up getting kicked out of her house, but she takes whatever she has left and she heads to Santa Cruz to pursue her dream of being a musician. So she finds the perfect oceanfront house where she meets these three guys, and she needs to convince them that not only is she the perfect roommate, but also that she's a really good bandmate as well, and that she would be the perfect guitarist to their band Seaside. Too bad that she can't get over her stage fright though, and that the cute bass player thinks that she's like some spoiled little girl, but she is trying, she is really trying. So because it really reminds me of the fact that this is about like a privileged girl who has a passion for for music, like that, just because of that aspect, and it follows like a few characters, it seems like, I am highly recommending that for the show Rebelde. Now the next show that we're going to be talking about is Betty la Fea. This show was so popular that they ended up making an English version of it called Ugly Betty with America Ferrera. Now this one, I actually only seen a few episodes of Betty la Fea. Never really watched Ugly Betty, but I do know that it is about this like woman who's like an assistant, and she's not seen as like regularly attractive, but she has a huge crush on her boss. And even though she is not outsidely considered attractive, she's very sweethearted and just amazing and beautiful as a person on the inside. And so for this one, it really reminded me of Romancing Mr. Bridgerton by Julia Quinn. So this is Penelope and Colin's story. It really reminded me of that because yes, Penelope has her things, right? But overall, I feel like she's a very sweet character, and she's not seen. I never read the books, to be honest with you, but she's not typically seen in the show as like the attractive one, even though she's gorgeous, like she's stunning. You know, she's not like the other girls. You know, it's her trying to get with this man that she's always had a crush on. And it just really reminded me of Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, so I'm recommending that. That's like my book recommendation for Betty la Fea. Now the next one was my favorite telenovela growing up, and that is Preciosa, and that is about a like really like humble girl who has like, I remember she used to walk like, she had like a disability like when she walked, right? And she used to work for the circus, and she ends up falling in love with this like doctor rich guy, but he's like engaged to her half-sister, I believe. And from there, like, the story ensues, and there's so much drama because it's a telenovela, but it's so entertaining. You know, it's about like it focuses on the circus and like the ringmaster being evil, and you know, the evil half-sister, but it's also a romance. And for that, of course, because it has to deal with the circus, because it has a romance, I have to recommend The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, because this one obviously takes place at a night circus. Now I'm gonna read to you back here. It says, the circus arrives without warning, no announcements precede it. It's simply there when yesterday it was not. Within the black and white striped canvas tents, and it's this circus that is only open at night. Behind the scenes, there's like a fierce competition that goes between these two people, Celia and Marco, and they've been trained since childhood expressly for this purpose to be like two famous magicians. But unbeknownst to them both, this is a game in which only one can be left standing. Amidst the high stakes, Celia and Marco soon stumble headfast into love, setting off a domino effect of dangerous consequences and leaving the lives of everyone from the performers to the patrons hanging in the balance. So this is a romance that ensues in this like night circus about these two rival musicians. So I just felt like this was a very like fitting book to recommend with Preciosa. Now the next telenovela that I want to recommend a book for is another one that I grew up watching probably when I was probably too young to be watching it, but I still watch it anyways, and that is Abrazame muy fuerte. And this is about a like woman that like ends up losing her sight, so she's blind and she's like forced to give up her daughter, and this one also involves a romance and like a very jealous evil woman and like all these like characters. And I remember really loving this show, and I couldn't remember the name of it, so I actually had to ask my cousin who lives in Mexico, because I would watch it with her, what the name of it was. And I was like, tenía una cascada, which means like it had like a waterfall like in the beginning, and I was like, ¿Cómo se llama? ¿Cómo se llama? And I was like looking for it everywhere, and she's like, oh, okay, like I googled it, it's Abrazame muy fuerte, and I was like, that's the one. That's the one. I actually want to rewatch this because I really loved this telenovela a lot. It was just so over the top dramatic, but I loved it. I ate it up. And so for this one, I want to recommend Hello Stranger by Catherine Center, because this one is also about a woman who like had a lot going on in her life, and then she ends up just going blind. Like she can't see anyone's faces, right? And so she ends up meeting two men that like sweep her off her feet, yet she can't see either one. So it's like this like whole little love triangle situation. And so it's probably not going to be as dramatic as a telenovela would be, but it has a very it has a similar premise in the sense that it's about a woman that like loses her eyesight, and then there's a romance that ensues. I just really thought that would be a good recommendation for that one. So that's my recommendation for Abrazame muy fuerte. The next one is called Caritas de Ángel. Now this one I did not watch. I remember seeing it like around when I was growing up, but I did not watch this one, but it was really popular. And this one has to do with the daughter of like a widower, right? And she's like super sweet and like really smart, and apparently she talks to like her dead mother and her mother that like passed away. So for this one, I wanted to take the opportunity to give a recommendation for something a little bit darker, just because I wanted more diversity within like the books, you know what I mean? Like more be able to like pick from different various genres and not just stick to like romance. And for that one, I want to recommend Incidents Around the House by Josh Nallerman. So this one is actually about a little girl. So we follow the main point of view of a little girl who's about 8 years old, and you see her as she has like this invisible friend who seems like a sweet enough person, but then that invisible friend always tells her like, can I come inside your heart? Can I come inside your heart? And this little girl always tells him no, and then things start happening around the house. So obviously this is a horror book, but because it had that same premise where we're following a little girl who sees things that, you know, don't like we as adults wouldn't specifically see, I really wanted to recommend like a more tougher book for this one. So Incidents Around the House for Carita de Ángel. The next telenovela, to be honest, isn't really like a telenovela. It's more like a sitcom show, but I just had to mention it because I used to watch this show whenever I was in Mexico with my family, and I'm pretty sure like a lot of you have either watched it or have heard of it, and that is La Familia Peluche, because it was on for a while. And in this one, we are basically following a family that's like in Peluche City, and they're always wearing like fuzz. They're wearing peluche all the time, you know, they're La Familia Peluche. So this one was a very like funny, quirky, comedic sitcom show, and I enjoyed it a lot. And so for this one, I actually wanted to recommend The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. So yes, I know it's not a fuzzy family, but the reason why I wanted to recommend this one specifically is because like La Familia Peluche, The Dead Romantics features like a really like quirky and funny family. The main character has like a really funny like silly family that I feel like they always have like they have their little things and their little jokes and their little dark humor that they share. And even though this family doesn't specifically have the same quirk as the Familia Peluche, where they all wear like fuzzy fuzz stuff, this family does have a quirk of its own because a few of them can talk to deceased people, so that's their little quirk. So not only are they like a family that's like close and funny and hilarious and they have little kinks, but they also have their own little thing where they can talk to the dead, just like La Familia Peluche all wear peluche, minus like one of the family members in La Familia Peluche. So that's why I wanted to recommend this one for La Familia Peluche. And this one's a really good one. And this one we follow our main character, and her name is Florence. And Florence is basically a ghostwriter for this like really famous writer. And she ends up going through like a really bad breakup, and she would only write romance. And so after this bad breakup, like she does not want to finish this book because she just doesn't believe in romance anymore. But she got a new editor, and the editor's like, no, I need this done like by the end of the week, so you need to get that done like pronto. Then she gets a phone call that her dad has passed away and she has to go back. This is not a spoiler. It's literally, I think it's like in the back. And so she has to go back to her family hometown. And there's one little quirk that Florence has. It's that she can talk to dead people. And she tries not to talk to them anymore because it's gotten her into nothing but trouble. But then her editor shows up at her family's doorstep where her family lives. And she's like, did you die? And he's like, I don't know. And then we find out that he gets hit by a car, and then she has to help him, and all these funny, like, fun things ensue. This was a really good read. I ended up rating it 5 out of 5 stars. Ashley Poston is just like a great author to me. So this was really great, and I recommend this one. So the next one is another popular one, and this one I also did not watch, but I wanted to mention it on here because when I looked at the list of like popular telenovelas, this was listed as like one of the top. And it is called Ruby, and Ruby is about an ambitious woman with like a humble background, but she's just absolutely stunning, gorgeous, flawless. Like, oh my gosh, she is drop dead gorgeous. And so she decides to change her poor situation, right? And she uses her whole seductive skills, her beauty, in order to seduce like a millionaire doctor. And for that one, because it has to do with this woman that's just so beautiful and is like trying to get men to do whatever she wants, I of course have to go with another horror. And that is Tomie by Junji Ito. In this one, we are basically following our main character, Tomie, and Tomie is not a likable girl. She's horrendous, she's horrible, okay? But you can't help but like be mesmerized by her because this girl is beautiful, she is stunning, and she is like, she's pretty much like a succubus. Like, she can turn any man against anyone and make them do anything for her, to the point where these men are so obsessed with her that they're like, I want to do everything with her. I have to be her first this, I have to be her first that. I'm so obsessed with her, only I can touch her, and I want to be the one to her. And so all these men end up unaliving her, and it just happens, and then she comes back time and time again, and it's this like cycle. So this is a really good recommendation for that one. So the last telenovela that we're going to be talking about is Eva Luna. This is another one that I didn't watch growing up because I was already, actually I was a teenager around that time. I didn't watch this one, but this one is about Eva's father who is killed, right, by a hit-and-run driver. And after he gets hit by a hit-and-run driver, she vows to find whoever killed her, whoever unalived her father. She's like, no, I'm gonna find this person. Lo voy a encontrar y llevar a la corte para que siempre se quede adentro de la cárcel. Para siempre. You know what I mean? So then she gets in a romance, right? She falls in love, she gets in a romance, but then her life starts falling apart when she begins thinking that the man that she has fallen for, the man that she's in a relationship with, is the killer. And how about that for some tea? Right? So because of that, I want to recommend Never Lie by Frida McFadden. Okay, in this one we are following a couple, and this couple just bought this like new house. They went to go see this new house, and the real estate agent was supposed to go out there to see it with them, and they get stuck in the snowstorm, right? And they are right in front of the house, and so they're like, should we go back? They're like, no, let's just wait, let's just ride out the snowstorm. There's food here, there's shelter. Like, I don't want to risk driving in the snowstorm because because it can turn out worse for us. So they end up staying in this house in the snowstorm, and then pretty soon the wife starts to pick up on little things. Like this house, the woman that lived there was a famous therapist slash psychiatrist. I can't remember if she's a therapist or psychiatrist. And she ends up going missing and nobody knows what happened to her, and people start to suspect that it was her boyfriend that unalived her, right? And so then the wife ends up finding some tapes of this woman's patients. And she starts listening to them. And it turns out it may not have been the boyfriend, because there are a lot of suspicious patients out there, okay? And then she starts noticing that things are starting to move around the house. She's starting to find things, and is this house haunted? Is something going on? Is somebody there? We don't know. We don't know. And so because of that, that's why I wanted to recommend a thriller for this one, just because this whole show seems like a thriller, and more specifically a thriller that involves a couple, you know what I mean? And a murder where an innocent party might just be found guilty. I just thought it would be a good one to recommend with this. So anyways, you guys, that is it for the telenovela book recommendations. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month. I hope you guys are having a great one, and I will see you in un video en el futuro. Bye!